Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how CloudFormation service works. So to go to CloudFormation, click on services and you should be able to find CloudFormation's right below management tools, or you can filter it in the search box itself. So now once you have gone to CloudFormation, you'll see a couple of options here. So you can either create a template or a stack. So template basically tells what kind of resource you want to provision, whereas stack is kind of an end result of the template. So first you would create a template of the resources that you need CloudFormation to create for you, and then finally you supply this template to a stack, and stack will go ahead and provision all those resources for you. So let's go ahead and create a template first, and then we'll use that to create a stack and deploy our resources. So before we do that, just a quick update. CloudFormation, just like Elastic Beanstalk, is a free service, so you do not actually pay for CloudFormation, but you do pay for the resources that you provision underneath. So for example, let's say you want to create a couple of EC2 instances using this CloudFormation, then you won't pay for the CloudFormation templates that you create, but you would have to pay for the EC2 instances that CloudFormation provisions for you. So let's go ahead and create a template now. So to do that, click on design template, and once you create that, you will see an UI where you can basically drag and drop multiple AWS services and create a template out of it. So this is what it looks like. So just to give a quick overview of this UI, on the left hand side you have multiple services that you wish to configure and provision using the CloudFormation template. You can just drag and drop onto this particular rendering area. On the bottom you have couple of tabs that basically separates out the properties and configurations that you need to do for that resource. And finally there's a template tab where you would see the entire template. Next, you have two types of formats that you can use for this template. You can either go a JSON format or a YAML format. So for this video I'm going to stick with JSON format, but if you are comfortable with YAML, you can go ahead and use that. So for this video I'm just gonna create a simple S3 bucket using CloudFormation template, just to give you an idea of how CloudFormation works. So let's go ahead to S3 and drag and drop bucket onto this rendering area. So once you click on this, you will see that certain JSON formats are already populated in these tabs. We'll go over those in some time, but before we do that, let's go ahead and right click on this particular component, and you would see that there are a couple of options here. So you have option to edit properties. You can either duplicate this particular resource, you can delete it, or you have a link to documentation as well. So let's go ahead and click on the documentation, and this is the documentation for creating an S3 bucket using the CloudFormation template. So we'll come back to this in a moment. So let's go back to our CloudFormation template. So in the properties, you basically define what kind of resources you are creating. So in this case it is S3, and in the properties you would add if you want to configure any properties related to S3. Similarly, you have other tabs, like for example condition, or if this particular resource creation depends on some other resource that you want to create, and stuff like that. So let's go back to the documentation now, and you can see this example that the type is AWS S3 bucket, which we saw was already pre-populated for us, and there are like some properties example that are provided here. The important property is the bucket name. So this basically tells what bucket name AWS should use to create, right? So if you haven't given that then CloudFormation will generate a unique ID and use that as the bucket name. So let's go ahead and configure this bucket over here inside properties. Let's name it Ithakor 9091, And so that's pretty much it. So this should be enough to create a bucket of name ATACO 1991, but just keep in mind that this bucket will be created in the same region where we have this CloudFormation template. So you can look at the top right, you can see for me it is Asia Pacific Mumbai. So it will be created in this particular region, but you can go ahead and change it to any other region that you want, right? So that was one thing that I wanted to do. The next thing that I wanted to do is configure the deletion policy. So by default, when a stack gets created, it will provision the underlying resources like S3 in this case. However, when you delete the stack, the provisioned bucket will also get deleted. And if you do not want that behavior, if you want to retain the S3 bucket when the stack is deleted, then you can provide that particular setting over here. So you can go back to the documentation and see how it works. You can see that there's a deletion policy attribute. So if you click on it, it will navigate you to a page that basically speaks more about this deletion policy attribute. And you can see that if you want to retain the S3 policy on deletion, you can just put the value as retain. So let's go ahead and do that. Put the deletion policy as retain, and you can go to template now and see the entire template in a single go. You can see that your bucket name is ATACO 1991 and the deletion policy is retain. So let's go ahead and save this policy to our local. So let's go ahead and save it as a local policy. We'll probably call it ATACO S3 CloudFormation.template and save it. Let me save it to my desktop. Now once you have done that, let's go back to the CloudFormation service. Yes please. And now that we have already created a template, let's go ahead and create a stack. So you can click on create stack, and we are going to upload the file that we have saved. So it was ATACO S3 CF template, and once you have selected, click on next, and here you have to give the stack name. Let's call it ATACO S3 CF stack. Click on next. You can provide tags if you want to associate it with your stack. Let's call it version, probably 1.0. You can also optionally provide a IAM role or rollback triggers. So let me go over some parts of rollback triggers. So the default behavior of CloudFormation is that when it is provisioning multiple resources as defined in the CloudFormation template, and if some part of the provisioning fails, then what CloudFormation does is it will basically roll back all the resources that it may have provisioned before the time some of the resource provision fail. Right, so let's say you are provisioning an RDS instance and couple of EC2 instances, and CloudFormation has already provisioned RDS and is in the process of provisioning the EC2 instances, which somehow fails, then it will go ahead and roll back the RDS instance as well. So that is the default behavior of CloudFormation, and this is the monitoring time for that. So you can click on the I to get more information. So it says amount of time during which CloudFormation should monitor all rollback triggers after the stack creation or update operation deploys all necessary resources. Right. Also, you have advanced option where you can set multiple notification methods like SNS to get notifications of your deployment of provisioning resources. So I'm gonna keep those as default and click on next. Now you will see basically overview of the things that you have selected so far. Let's go ahead and click on create. Now you can see that we have created a stack named ATACO S3 CF, and you can see it is in create in progress process. You can click on the stack and you can see the events that are happening. So you can go ahead and in S3 and see if our S3 bucket is now created. So there we go. As you can see, it is 8 1991 S3 bucket is created. So CloudFormation has done that. You can see the timestamp as well. It is March 31st, 10 p.m., which is our current time. So let's go back to the stack, and so it will take some time to reflect the changes here. So let's go back to the stack, and there we go. You can see that the creation is completed and the S3 is created. So you can see some other things associated with this stack here. So for example, output. So in this case, we have not configured any output in the template, but let's say if you are configuring a load balancer or a web server, and you want to know the public IP or the load balancer URL, then you can modify your template to output those parameters. So let's go ahead and see if our deletion policy works. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and delete this stack, and hopefully our S3 bucket should still be there when the CloudFormation template is deleted, because we had set the retention policy, deletion policy as retained, right? So let's go ahead and delete this stack, and you can see that the deletion is in process. You can again, alright, so that was fast. The stack is deleted. Now let's go ahead to S3 and refresh this, and you can see that the bucket is still there, right? So that is pretty much it about CloudFormations. You can either create your own template, or you can use one of the templates that is provided by AWS. Then finally you create a new stack based on this template, and the stack will go ahead and provision all the resources that you have defined in your template. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.